There's always one that comes to the party to spoil it all. Everybody, it's me, GhostCritic, back with another Friday comic book review video for you. Nice healthy stack of 7 comics this week. Unfortunately, there was one bad egg in the omelette. Let's go straight on with it and let's get rid of that awful issue 28 of Batwoman. Yeah, still stinks, and there's a lot to say that's wrong with it. I really don't know if this is just kind of, I don't know, performance anxiety on the behalf of Andreyko, who's taken over from J.H. Williams as our storyteller here. I should have really looked to see what he's done before this, to see if he's always been pretty awful or it is just on this title. But he really doesn't seem able to write an interesting, you know, story. Nothing about this arc he's currently doing draws me in at all. It's completely unoriginal, and it just plods along. This could have been something that came out in the mid-90s, the way he's telling a story here. In this issue we have the fallout from Maggie's child seeing Kate all beaten up in the bathroom, you know, cleaning herself up. And there is just this kind of, to a point, there's like this huge overreaction from Maggie. And she throws lots of things in her face and basically says that Kate needs to go and see a psychiatrist. Because, you know, she's got all this inner turmoil going on. She goes out and fights all these, you know, criminals and supervillains, etc. And to a point, I could agree with her. Apart from the fact that in this issue, we see how Kate, as Batwoman, has got all these kind of like bruises and cuts and is bleeding all over the place. And the juxtaposition is that, you know, that we see in the comic is that she's going out to like the criminal underbelly, trying to basically punch the information out of the criminals, the thieves, just the general criminal hoodlums. These aren't super villains. And the way that Maggie puts it across is, I'm just thinking, this is probably what you do on a daily basis, as you were as a cop of Gotham, and now as a police, as a detective. I'm just thinking, your reasoning for this is on shaky ground. You know, I know you're worried about your kid and you don't want her taken away from you, but your job surely is just as dangerous. If they had Kate as Batwoman fighting, say, Killer Croc or Clayface in this issue, or someone like that, one of the big supervillains, I could understand the impact of it. But if you're a new reader to this, and you're not kind of au fait with, you know, Batwoman or Batman, or just the Bat Universe's Rogues Gallery, this seems a very kind of tenuous link to Batwoman, Kate going to see a psychiatrist. So I found that all very icky and clumsy. Of course, the kid is fine about it. As always, the little child is the mature one about it all. And there is like this kind of cute little scene between Kate and the daughter, where the little girl is like, "What, you were scared of me too? Mummy, do you hear this?" But obviously Maggie's having none of it. I will say, if if they have clumsily revealed the identity of this spider wolf in here, I will be so annoyed, because it's completely unoriginal and just so generic way to reveal the identity. If anyone's reading this, who does she meet in the police headquarters? If you've not read it, I don't want to spoil it too much for you, but there just is that, oh, you're all beaten up, what happened to you? Oh no, you're all beaten up as well. How did that happen to you? It's just, please don't go there. Change it if you've already gone that way. I'm trying with Batwoman, I really am, and I've probably spoken too much about it than it actually deserves already. Really not a great time to be a fan of the Batwoman franchise. Let's move on. Animal Man 28, and this is the penultimate issue. I just seem to want comics to end sooner than they actually should do of late. Yes, in Wednesday's video I did say that this was the last video, the last issue of this run. I quickly put an annotation up to say, I'm wrong, I know, I hold my hands up, there's one more issue to go after this. Which I think is going to be pretty much Jeff Lemire's kind of swan song to his run on Animal Man, because in this issue we kind of get the wrap up of the whole this kind of Red revolt with Brother Blood and one of the kind of Council of the Red, who want to take over the Red rather than, you know, share with the other council members. I have to say I was a touch disappointed with this issue. It got to that point, the inevitable point, where you have the big smackdown between, you know, Buddy Baker as Animal Man and Brother Blood and our rogue council member of the Red. But it just seemed a little bit pat. It seemed a little bit by the numbers. You know, we have, you know, them fighting and who's going to win. Moments where, oh no, he's not going to, it's going to go all wrong. And then what kind of lifted it somewhat for me was, once again, as I've always said about Animal Man, the family team comes together. Maxine kicks off with her big powers. For some reason, I don't know if it was Brother Blood or the Council of Red member, but they kind of extracted Ellen from her prison cell, taking her into the Red, but she wasn't going to stand around looking all pretty. She gets a few kicks in there in some painful regions. But the whole family, again, like it always has, there have been these moments where, you know, it's not just Animal Man who is fighting these baddies. The family come together, they fight together, and it brings them together. What else? I mean, right at the end, we have the ominous one-page shot of the Bridge Master, or Bridge Walker, sorry, which, yes, it's ominous, but ultimately I think it's going to be pointless, because that whole storyline of there being other planets and they're all connected is never ever going to see fruition, unfortunately. It happened in this as well, and I've noticed it in, obviously, the other two books that are so closely, the other book that's so closely connected to this, and that Swamp Thing, and the fact that, you know, whether it's, you know, the Parliament of Trees, you know, this Council of Red, or it's the guys that are running the Rot, they do appear to make very, very bad decisions in choosing their avatars. Obviously, the Rot used Anton Arcane, who just decided to disregard the Rot and was after everything he could for himself, obviously. The parliamentaries decided to pick Jason Woodrue, which was clearly a bad choice. And then we have in here from the shepherd, he mentions that, you know, it seriously wasn't fair of this council of Red to choose a young girl who's, you know, she's only a child, she isn't mature enough really to take on the responsibilities of the avatar of the Red. And that just seems to be a concurrent flow going through this kind of triangle of avatars for the red and the green. I was a little bit confused with the whole Maxine using... Did she use all her powers up? I didn't realise this was kind of a Green Lantern charging your powers up kind of deal. I mean, the fact that she is in the red, okay, we're right on the outskirts, but by this point they've really put the hurt already on Brother Blood and the council of the Red member. And it just seems that, has she used it all up now? Has she given all her power to Shepherd? That bit was kind of confusing to me. But overall, Animal Man, always enjoy it. It's going to be sad to see it go next issue. But we're in for a treat because Jeff Lemire is not only writing it, but he is doing all the artwork for the final issue. Looking forward to that. Morning Glories, issue 37. It's that time of the month again where I start scratching my head and going, what the hell is going on? This issue is yet another kind of one character centric storyline, and this time it's our cover ballerina girl, Akiko. And she's currently in a coma, and we are getting the story told through kind of like this dream that she's having while she's in the coma. So there's plenty of opportunities for kind of time to go backwards and forwards, toing and froing, just to make it, you know, that a bit more complicated than, you know, it already is. But however, there are some really nice nuggets, little Easter eggs in there for the long-term reader to pick up on. Morning Glories has always had a kind of like undercurrent theme about religion going through it, but certainly in this issue it's smack bang in the forefront, talking about the woman who was turned to salt, Lot and his wife, whatever his wife was called, and the kind of teaching this story to the children as they were as children, and the kind of, again, the underlying implications of that story and how it fits into their lives, which it was not a shock to see, but it, like I said, religion has been, it's been bubbling underneath there, and you wonder then where Nick Spencer is going now with it, giving it such a push forward on that. Also, I have to say, these kids have got the worst parents ever. I think there's only, I think it's Cassie who seems to have the most normalist. The rest of them are just terrible, horrible parents. And I just wouldn't want to be any of their sons. Maybe that's another link that fits into the whole story. Maybe Nick Spencer is doing this on purpose. Who knows with Morning Glories? I do have to say that I wish Nick Spencer would kind of give us a break from these one character centric storylines. Because although you can see there are going to certainly be parts within these stories that link to the whole thing, I would just prefer like the last couple of story arcs, like PE, where they were all in the woods, that there would be a proper storyline where, you know, not necessarily a cliffhanger, but there's like a part 1, a part 2, a part 3, however long, instead of these kind of almost one-shot storylines. But I always say this, I can't recommend this title enough, but there is no jumping on point with Morning Glories, and I don't think there ever will be. You are just going to have to bite the bullet and go to the very start and begin from the beginning. Fables from Vertigo, issue 138 came out this week, and just as I expected when I mentioned it in the Wednesday video, this is somewhat of a digression to the main storyline of Camelot that has been going on of late. This is all about Geppetto. I know a lot of you are reading Fables, and I don't want to spoil the kind of journey that Geppetto has been on, because I know some of you are quite far behind but are going to be picking this up eventually, so I won't spoil that so much. But what I will say is that Geppetto has or had a sacred grove which had kind of living wood in it where he makes his kind of soldiers from. Obviously, given what has happened since, he has now been barred from the sacred grove. He can't enter it. There's like a mystical barrier around it, and obviously he's quite annoyed about this. So in this issue, he's managed to kind of fashion, or he's secreted away, this one tiny little kind of wooden soldier, which he sets off on a mission to go into the sacred grove and kind of get all the trees that they're sentient in there. They can talk. It's a bit like the trees in Lord of the Rings. To get them to come back to Geppetto. And so we get this wonderful kind of 4 or 5 pages of this poor little wooden soldier getting attacked by all sorts. Frogs, snakes, what else was there, like little wood mice, which he battles and defeats. And then this woodpecker swoops over and he quickly hides, because of course the woodpecker is going to feast upon a little wooden toy soldier given half the chance. It's those little touches that that Bill Willingham just adds and makes this just fun to read. Of course, Geppetto has a little twist in this, which is nice, and it can see for future boding it's certainly going to come into play as Fables starts reaching its climax, its end at issue 150. Just another magical issue of Fables. Alex and Ada issue 4 from Image. And if you wanted something to really sink your teeth into this week, Alex and Ada issue 4 certainly was the comic to read, because it's very dialogue heavy. There's a great deal of explanation of how the world has come to where it is now, regarding the whole kind of AI robots and their kind of autonomy, their sentientness, is that a word? But we left off last issue where Alex had entered this kind of virtual reality forum that was specifically designed for kind of humans and these robots alike to come into, to talk to each other and understand each other, I guess. In this world of Alex and Ada, robots are subservient. They have no kind of will of their own. They are purely there for our human owners. Obviously, people are a bit kind of uneasy about that, and they would rather their kind of robot partners, robot servants, whatever you want to call them, had a little bit more up there going for them, and, you know, make decisions for themselves rather than just purely be based on what their owner desires. And so we get a lot about the history, in some respects, of the robots from two newly introduced characters within this virtual reality forum of Levi and an as yet unnamed robot who come to Alex's aid in helping Alex decide whether he actually even wants Ada to have this autonomy, this sentience that he desires her to have, but does he realise the implications that that could lead to? We learn about the robots when they were made. They have this kind of switch that makes them sentient, that makes them, basically you wouldn't know they were humans because obviously they're so far advanced. But when the company who made these, they put a block on it so they couldn't become just independent thinkers. Alex does go through kind of a moral, ethical debate with himself on whether this is going to be the best thing for Ada, and that takes him to a seedy motel in the middle of nowhere where our unnamed robot helps Alex open Ada up, so to speak. Great issue of Alex and Ada again, really enjoying this futuristic kind of iRobot-esque storyline, and like I said, it's a meaty book this week. It took me a good long time to read through this, but it was worth it. Now, an issue that is actually the final issue, at least for this volume, it's Daredevil, it's issue 36. And it's kind of like our final chapter. Last issue, obviously, the kind of cliffhanger was Matt Murdock admitting that yes, I have always been Daredevil in a court of law, and this causes much grief to the Sons of Serpents as the court proceedings go on. Matt basically reveals everything about his history, thus nullifying the Sons of Serpents' kind of hold over Matt Murdock and his not now secret identity. And a lot of action. There is a smattering of action in here. The Sons of Serpents crashing into the court to take out a member of the room. I'm not going to say who it is, but Daredevil, Matt Murdock, kind of puts two and two together and works out what really kicked this all off. And of course, it's now off to California we go. It was a satisfying ending to this volume. Personally, I'm sad to see that it's going to come off my pull list, unfortunately. To be honest, it's coming out again next month. There's no kind of break to this. There's no reason for it to go up $1. It's the same creative team. This is just Marvel money grabbing, I'm afraid. I'm sure the quality will just be as great it has been for this volume, but if they could afford it at this, they can afford it in the next volume. The cover on this is especially fun. Take a good look at the kind of little bits that are in this. I won't get this up too close. If you've got a copy in front of you, have a look at it now, because you know you've got obviously the his dad's boxing gloves there. There's a little kind of little writing on one of the boxes that tells you this is Daredevil Volume 3, and it tells you kind of its life, the start date and the end date. Obviously Daredevil's uniforms there. What I did find really fun and really quite a nice nod, a respectful nod to the people that came before Wade and Samney, because if you look right at the bottom where the box of files are, there's kind of a brief spattering of names that have also worked on Daredevil. So you've got Paulo Rivera, you've got Stan Lee, you've got where are we? Frank Miller, John Romita Jr. And I just really thought that was a nice touch and a great way to kind of, as a cover, end this volume. So, bye-bye Daredevil. Finally, my pick of the week, and I've got a feeling this is going to become a bit of a habit, because Mike Carey and Peter Gross, they are pulling out their A game for this last 12-issue run of The Unwritten. Unwritten Apocalypse issue 2 from Vertigo came out this week, and it was just fantastic. Like I said, they are pulling out all the stops for this last run. Last issue, the first issue of the second volume, we went on a journey with Tom Taylor through kind of the literary animal world as he kind of evolved and grew and got back to London, where he wants to catch up with his friends, with his team. So this issue kind of kicks off with Richie, Lizzie, Cozy and Leon making their way to Trafalgar Square, where they've been told they have to wait for Tom. And we go through this kind of patchwork of genres and characters and styles that have kind of been all mashed up as they walk through London to Trafalgar Square. They meet the kind of literary characters from the Restoration period, and right at the very end, I mean, you can't have a title called Unwritten Apocalypse without there being a war brewing, and we certainly see at the very end of this an army has amassed. Let's not forget, and this is such a great kind of way that Mike Carey uses kind of literary tropes to embellish and enrich the Unwritten universe, because right at the very beginning of this we go back to a character that, and as they say at the beginning, you've forgotten about, and that is Armitage. Armitage was last seen back in the story arc kind of Tom Taylor's world tour, where he ended up in Australia, went to the outback with Didge and Armitage. And while Didge's storyline seemed to go somewhere and end, Armitage had just actually been left at literally at the campfire, and we'd not heard of him before. But now we have him in, I presume, this almost dreamlike world, being told that, you know, you are an important part of this story. So I'm sure we're going to see much more of Armitage, and Armitage is certainly going to be, or at least provoke, a lot of the storyline pushing forward. Just fantastic book. I just can't get enough of The Unwritten. I've championed this for a long time. If you like fables, this is don't want to say a meatier version, because that kind of putting down fables, but there's certainly a lot to think about in this. The literary lushness of this title knows no bounds, and Mike Carey certainly uses, you know, all the tropes of storylines, but places them in an original and exciting way. The Unwritten. Go pick it up. And that's it for this week. Thank you all for watching. If you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed what you saw. That way you won't miss out on any other videos. Give it a big thumbs up. We love the thumbs up. And throw some comments down below. Let me know what you thought of the books if you're reading the same as me, or tell me about what you've been reading this week. What should I be maybe looking at nearer the future? Just want to say thank you to all my latest subscribers. Had a little bit of an influx of viewers of late. Thank you very much for taking the time to hit that subscribe button. It's always much appreciated. So until next week, have a great weekend and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.